again, and welcome to another edition of Values Control. This is the Gray Falcon, and today we're going to be doing Deconstructing Dr. Fauci. Subtitle, What Exactly Is He Doing? Now, it's pretty clear and well known that Dr. Fauci is embraced by a significant portion of the coalition or the voters who oppose Donald Trump. And he even has the confidence of, according to the data, about 50% of Trump voters, which stems from the fact that cordially Trump and Fauci more or less have a favorable response to one another. Dr. Fauci several times early this year said that Donald Trump had actually done a good job and everything that he had recommended for him to do. That doesn't stop people from saying that Dr. Fauci has been absolutely wonderful and Donald Trump has been absolutely terrible, which to me is cognitively dissonant because Dr. Fauci is the head of Donald Trump's task force. And one of the primary foundations for this cognitive dissonance is when people say Donald Trump knew how bad it was and didn't tell anybody. I don't deny that's the case. He did know. But how many other people knew? He knew because health experts told him. Is it plausible that any of the information that Donald Trump got was not made available to the CDC or Dr. Fauci or even members of Congress? Like, you hear a lot about this Purdue guy who clearly used the information to profit, but that would indicate that everyone in Congress should have had some kind of access to this information, I would imagine. The idea that they were able to keep this a secret from one another, it just doesn't seem plausible. So why wasn't this airborne transmission thing made public in early February? The fact is I saw multiple articles. In fact, the first article that really promoted the airborne issue and the aerosol issue was an article. It was a German study on February, in early February, which later was debunked. It suggested that the woman who was assumed to have infected multiple people, was asymptomatic. Turned out later she just said she was asymptomatic, that she actually had been sick and lied to people because she didn't want to get sent home from work. But the issue is, how is it possible that the leader of Donald Trump's task force is heralded as a hero and Donald Trump is considered a failure, even though Dr. Fauci praised Donald Trump's decision to close close travel to China, and he said it would probably work to mitigate the spread. And this is early February. Donald Trump closed the border to China in late January. So again, there's this paradox where Dr. Fauci is said to have been wonderful, and the reason why is simple. Dr. Fauci consistently contradicted Donald Trump's perspectives. He consistently contradicted Donald Trump's notion that the virus wouldn't be that bad. That's the reason why people say he's wonderful. Nothing that he has actually put in place, nothing that he's recommended seems to be working according to his own statement that, wow, we're going to get an infection on top of an infection, this, that, or the other. If things are so bad, then that means that if Donald Trump failed, and I'm not saying that he didn't fail, I don't think Donald Trump has even an iota of investment in this situation beyond his own interest. But if he failed, then that means his task force failed. And that's the thing of how Donald Trump infects the anti-MAGA coalition. They are now doing for Fauci what Donald Trump supporters do for Donald Trump. And that is the reason why I voted against him. Because it's time for that cycle to end. But it doesn't mean that I accept the values of the other side or accept the values of those who are so adamantly against Trump that they begin to embrace things that don't make sense just so that they can be opposed to the to to this this object of their hate and this object of their objection. Now, in regard to deconstructing Dr. Fauci's supposed brilliant leadership on this situation, um, I have a few questions. I have three questions that I've yet to have answered either on social media or for people in person. One, if Fauci tells people not to wear masks to save them for healthcare workers because we assume people would hoard them, then why do we assume that the infections are up because people are choosing not to wear them? That's counterintuitive. Okay? So that number one issue. It's the notion that the people who are supporting the mask mandates are engaged in a dramatic version of confirmation bias. They're engaged in the same level of self reinforcing, non disprovable as Trump people who suggest the election was rigged. What they're saying is mask work. The pro mask mandate people say mask work. And they say, well, look, you can compare the rate of increase of this one place to the rate of increase of this other place without isolating any variables. This little town over here has a 300% or 200% or 70% increase, and this large place over here has only a 17 or 18% increase. Two completely different population sizes, blah. Oh, we've been through all that. That's failing to isolate for different variables. You're just making it say what you want it to say, and mask work because both places have increases in virus PCR test positives, which don't necessarily tell you that the virus is getting worse in one place than the other just because you have higher raw or infection numbers. It's far more complicated than that, but it's another story. But it's this idea that in March, Fauci had to tell people not to wear masks because they would hoard them. If you need to force them to wear them, then that means there wasn't a risk that so many people were going to buy them up. So that's a damn lie. And for the COVID-19 regime to embrace the idea that what Dr. Fauci said made sense. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing a huge difference between the Trump folks who are absolutely insistent that Donald Trump may have a chance to win, and COVID-19 regime folks who are saying that Dr. Fauci's on point on this. He's not on point on this.